Today I'm going to show you how I made some Boho baby cake pops for a baby shower. Join me. I started with mixing up some vanilla cake batter. I used two 9x13 pans to bake these cake pops. Once they were finished cooking and cooled, I broke those up and put them into a bowl, and I added some buttercream icing and mixed that together very well to create these cake pops. Here I am mixing up the cake pop batter. Once that was finished, I had one solid ball, and I began to weigh out each of my cake pops. Cake pops are each 1.4 ounces. Weighed each of them out and prepared to roll them once I was finished measuring all of this out. After I was finished rolling all of this out, I started working on my fondant toppers that I'd be putting onto the cake pops. I cut out some square pieces in white fondant, and I took some edible images of the Boho baby designs, and I cut those out so that I could put those onto each of these fondant pieces. Once they were cut out, I used a little bit of water to adhere the edible image to the fondant squares. Here I was just kind of cutting out the excess edible paper around each of the images. As I said, used a little bit of water and then adhered them to these fondant squares. After I was finished adding them to all of the squares, I went back around and I cut out each of them, leaving a little bit of a white border around the edible images. So this is me just cutting off those edges. After I was finished with cutting these out, I wanted to paint around the edges of these. So I used a little bit of lemon extract with some gold luster dust, and I just painted around each one of those white borders that I left around the edible images. They look like little picture frames. Little gold frames for the baby coming up. So after I was finished painting all of those, I put them onto another plate, which you'll see here in a minute. And what I do is, because I want them to stay still pliable, I put them into a Ziploc baggie, and that will allow them to stay still soft. So I put them into a baggie, and I use a piece of parchment paper that I put over top of it so that the images and the paint don't stick to the baggie and mess up the design. Here's what they look like. This is one of the kinds of designs. There were a few different designs. Now I'm setting up my melter for dipping the cake pops. I'm using like a pinkish orange color that matches the boho rainbow that's common. And here I am, I'm just dipping each one of the sticks into my melted chocolate, and that will allow the sticks to really adhere into the cake pops. After I'm finished with that, it's time to begin dipping. So I dip each one of them and I tap the sides so that I can get excess chocolate off of the sides, so we don't have lumps and excess chocolate dipping around. And usually there's excess chocolate on the stick, so you'll see me sometimes wiping along the sides of those. Now I'm beginning to add those little picture frames to each one of the cake pops. So I'm using a little bit of piping gel, putting it onto the back of those and adhering the image, which is still pliable because I had it in that bag, and I am wrapping it around each one of the cake pops. There you saw me. I was just kind of looking for the side that would be best covered up on the cake pop. And here you see me, I'm beginning to bag those up, putting each one of them into a small treat bag, and I'm using a twisty to tie those together to shut them. And once I'm finished doing this with all of the cake pops, it's time to package them up, and in a few minutes you'll see them in the final packaging that will be delivered to the customer. Here's what these cake pops look like up close. This is one of the other designs that are used. You'll notice there are rainbows going each way. Thanks for joining me. Come like and subscribe, comment if you wish, and feel free to share with all of your friends.